Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really jumping into something quite unique. We're tracing the story of one specific Crip set, the Rollin 30s Harlem Crips. And what's fascinating here is, well, it's not just a local story. It spans continents, involves some really unexpected migration.
Exactly. It's a complex history. We've looked at the sources, and they cover the origins in Los Angeles, a really key connection to Belizean Americans. Then this period where they actually operated in Belize, which is where they got their name, and then their move and activities in Harlem, New York, plus major law enforcement actions later on.
Okay, right. So let's start at the beginning, the bigger picture. The Crips, generally they came about in L.A., 1960s. That's the background here.
That's the broad context,
Yeah.
yeah. Los Angeles in the 60s. And it wasn't like one unified group from the get-go. It was more these individual sets.
Sets, right, like different chapters or crews under the Crip umbrella.
Pretty much. They have their own turf, sometimes their own leaders, their own, internal ways of doing things, but they still identify as Crips. And South LA back then, well, it was a time of huge social change. You had the rise of the Crips, but also rivals like the Bloods. It was complex.
Definitely. And this is where the specific story of the Rollin 30s starts to branch off, and it involves, surprisingly, the Belizean American community.
Yes, this is a crucial element. Our sources point to a natural disaster back in 1961.
A hurricane.
A really devastating one, yeah. Hurricane Hattie. It hit British Honduras, what we now call Belize, hard, and that led to the first major wave of Belizean immigration into South Los Angeles.
Ah, okay. So that event indirectly seeds this community in LA.
It does. And, dealing with that kind of shared trauma, moving to a new place, it probably created strong bonds within that community, but maybe also made some folks, particularly younger ones, more vulnerable, perhaps looking for protection or a sense of belonging, which gangs sometimes seem to offer.
Right. And then moving forward a bit, as that community established itself, the next generation growing up in the 80s, that's when gang culture really took root among them.
That seems to be the timeline, yes. The sources suggest that gang culture became more prevalent within the Belizean American youth in LA during the 1980s. And it probably wasn't just copying existing gangs. They likely brought their own experiences, their own cultural elements into it, creating a sort of unique local version.
But then there's this other twist: deportation. Some members were actually sent back to Belize.
This is a really key moment. Yeah, because of rising gang violence involving some individuals of Belizean descent in LA, authorities started deporting some of them back to Belize.
Wow. So instead of solving a problem, it exported it.
In effect, yeah, it unintentionally became this catalyst. These individuals, already steeped in LA's Bloods and Crips culture, brought it directly to Belize City.
So that culture just spread rapidly there.
That's what the sources indicate. A very quick spread. And interestingly, it's during this time while operating in Belize that this specific group adopted the name Rollin 30s Harlem Crips.
Wait, Harlem Crips? While they were in Belize. Why Harlem? Any idea?
That's a great question. It's not entirely clear from the sources. It could suggest maybe an ambition to eventually establish themselves in New York, or perhaps Harlem referred to a specific area or clique back in their LA origins that was important to the Belizean members. Gang names can carry a lot of weight, History, aspiration.
Huh. Okay, so that name is adopted in Belize. And then, late 80s, early 90s, they actually make the move to Harlem, New York City.
Correct. Key figures we see mentioned are Diamond Mayan, his brothers, and some associates. They basically picked up and moved the operation.
From Belize to Harlem.
It seems so. They landed in Harlem and set up a drug business, focusing on the blocks around 118th Street and Fifth Avenue. That was their initial base in NYC.
And they didn't waste much time getting established, it sounds like. By 95, they were already involved in violence.
Yeah, the information suggests pretty rapid growth. They became active, quickly assaults, shootings, making their presence felt in that part of Harlem.
And the drug operation itself was pretty significant by 97. We saw a figure, what was it, $4,000 a day?
That's the figure mentioned, yeah. $4,000 a day in drug sales. It really shows the scale they reached, the kind of money involved. That fuels a lot of other activity, obviously.
And it wasn't just drugs, right? Other crimes mentioned too?
No, not just drugs. Our sources also list things like weapon trafficking often goes hand in hand with drug turf, but also prostitution, robbery, even murder. A pretty wide range of criminal activities.
So NYPD must have started noticing pretty quickly. When did they get on the radar?
Well, the first real flag seems to have been in November 1995. There was an assault on a teenage girl. Apparently she was wearing red, which is, associated with the Bloods. Classic gang conflict indicator.
Right, that would definitely get attention. But was there a specific event that triggered a bigger investigation?
It seems so. In April 1996, the leader, Dalman Diamond Mayan, reportedly fired a gun at a neighbor. The neighbor had apparently confronted him about dealing drugs, that kind of public violent act.
Yeah, that's going to bring the heat.
Exactly. That incident sparked a dedicated 7-month investigation by the NYPD, specifically targeting the Rollin 30s Harlem Crips in East Harlem.
7 months. And that led to arrests.
It did. A big operation on October 29, 1997. 24 members were arrested in East Harlem. And the charges were serious. Attempted murder, sexual assault, selling crack, selling heroin, a major bust.
Okay, so that's New York. But the story doesn't end there. Fast forward to 2013, and we're back in Los Angeles, Operation Thumbs Down.
That's right. Shows they were still active on both coasts, or at least maintaining a presence back in L.A. This was a joint FBI and L.A. County DA investigation. And it wasn't short, lasted 18 months, targeting members and associates back in South L.A.
An 18-month investigation, that's significant. And the takedown itself was huge.
Massive. Over 800 law enforcement officers were involved in the final operation on August 29, 2013.
800 officers. It
Okay.
just gives you a sense of scale.
It really does. Shows how significant law enforcement perceived their presence and activities to be in L.A. at that time. They arrested 35 gang members in that operation.
And the charges in L.A. were mostly drugs and weapons.
Primarily, yes. Various narcotics and weapons violations seems to reflect their core activities in that area, or at least what the investigation focused on.
And then, even more recently, 2021, Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
a robbery at a high-end restaurant, Il Pastaio.
Yeah, quite a different scene. A very high-profile robbery. Someone had a $500,000 Richard Mille watch stolen. And the arrests, made in May 2021, identified 3 suspects as members of the Rollin 30s Crips.
Wow. Malik Lamont Powell, Kai McGee, and Marquise Anthony Garden.
Those are the names reported, yes. Definitely suggests, well, either a broad reach or just individuals affiliated with the set involved in crimes far outside their usual turf. Audacious, certainly.
So wrapping this all up, it's quite a journey. Starts with the general Crip formation in L.A., gets this specific Belizean connection through immigration after the hurricane. Then the culture gets exported back to Belize through deportation. They adopt the Harlem Crips, named there. Then they establish a major operation in actual Harlem, New York. But they clearly maintain L.A. ties, leading to major busts on both coasts, and then this recent, very flashy robbery in Beverly Hills.
It really is a remarkable trajectory. You see the LA origins, the Belizean influence, the transatlantic move, the bi-coastal presence. It underscores how interconnected things can be. Migration, deportation, cultural transmission, even in the context of criminal gangs, it creates these really complex, unexpected pathways.
Absolutely. Makes you think, doesn't it? How something like global migration, things happening continents away, can directly shape what looks like a local street gang issue. The Rollin 30s Harlem Crips, with these Belizean roots and this Harlem base. It's a really potent example. Makes you wonder, what other local issues, maybe things we see every day, might actually have these surprising international connections, these hidden global roots we just haven't traced yet? Something to think about.